Hey everybody, Joe Conkley in the shop. We're back to this Martin D-28 rebrace guitar. So I have moved along here little by little. We have all the braces installed, and some of them the basic carving has started on, and that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to take this lower tone bar here and just show you how I go about doing that basic carving, and maybe hit a couple of these finger braces too. So, and then we'll also pop it off the workboard so we can see the front side and just see what this rebracing has done for the strength of the top. So first thing I do here is to, from measurements that I've taken from several guitars and from the guitars that I built and the rebases and retops that I've done, there are some standard dimensions that I start with. And I know they're going to work to a certain point given the type of bracing material that I'm using. And for the most part, I try to choose that bracing material as consistently as possible. And then when I prepare the braces out of the blocks of wood and cut them down to a certain dimension, test the flexibility, and like I said, start with a fairly uniform building block to start with. That allows me to get to this initial dimension before I really start flexing and tapping to get the final dimension on the brace. So there we are. So on this tone bar, I've pretty much got it split up into 3 sections here to give me that scallop brace suspension bridge kind of look, where it starts from the ends of the brace. End of the brace near the top is basically tapered off to 0. The end of the brace that fits into the X brace here is around, is a little taller than that, around 1/16 of an inch. Then I split that dimension into 3 sections, a slightly longer section in the middle and 2 ends. Basically, I scoop it out through the middle like that. So this tool is pretty handy, a curved chisel, so that allows me to do some stuff like that. A question that came up earlier and certainly occurred to me, which is I'm replacing the braces on the top and I need to get access to that. What's the best way to do it? Remove the top or the back? Logic would lend itself to, you're replacing the braces on the top. How do you get access to the top? You take it off. As long as you're taking the neck off, you can take the top off. I chose to take the back off to get access to that for pretty much one reason. I've had other situations in building new tops and building guitars where the top is done earlier in the process, and for whatever reason, there are large time breaks. It's become problematic having a top sit for a fair amount of time without being attached to the sides as a way to stabilize it. So I've just come across problems with that, with the changes in humidity or whatever. Even when I've had the top clamped to a workboard that is specifically the shape I'm looking for, a free-sitting piece of spruce has turned into problems for me. It's changed shape during those breaks, and it's something I've wanted to avoid. So I like to, if I'm building a top, get it attached to the sides right after, when I'm ready, or in this case, when I'm rebracing the top, I like to have the back off so that, the top is, once I get the braces going, it's stabilized by already being connected to the sides. Another part of it is that to really see what's going on with the top as far as flexibility and tap tone, there's a really different thing that you get from a free plate with not being attached to the sides. And so you really have to have either have it attached to the sides or have something to that is very similar to that, so you can really tell what's going on there. So those 2 things, that's why I'm doing it this way, because you'll notice that having attached to the sides and working down in here is restrictive. It's much easier to get to where I need to get without the sides being here. So again, choices. So first thing I'm going to do is get in here with this chisel, start taking some material away to make this first scoop here. And the challenge here is to remove some material fairly quickly without going too far. And in this case too, this is another challenge that the sides permit. I'm taking this scoop and going to the end of the brace, but I don't want to overshoot that and slam it into the side here and create other problems for myself. So at the same time I'm doing this scoop, I'm also getting the height on this first scallop point. So I'm gonna take this down to the height I want and continue to try and scoop this out, but keep good control of the chisel so I'm not flying all over the place here and creating other problems for myself. So I've got that height there. So I will redraw this little mark at the very top, which will be my high point in the suspension bridge there. Okay, there it is pretty roughly, that first contour down there. It's not quite to zero right there, but pretty close. I've got that height. Let me see. You can see here, there's one problem right there, trying to get to this point, and the side is restricting me because of the length of my chisel here. So I have another chisel that is shorter that I will have to go to. But first, I'll do what I can with this curved one. Let's get the other chisel. A little bit shorter, allow me some different access. Instead of using the flat edge, I'm going to turn it over and use the other edge, which will allow me to do some scooping also here. Chisel's a little narrower. This just happens to be my favorite chisel for neck resetting, partly because of that width, and it just happened to be the chisel that I really felt like I got to the point where I was sharpening things the way I wanted to. And so by default, it is my sharpest chisel, and so that's why I'm using it for this job. Here's the height again. That brace blank was pretty much the height I needed, which is why I carved the blank to that point. That one's roughed out. Now let's do that middle section here. Challenge with this middle section is I have to scoop that middle out. And because of the way the grain of the blank is, I have to come from either end and meet in the middle there to get that part scooped out properly. It's a little bit more of a challenge. And yeah, I think that one is not going to do. Yeah, both of these are somewhat problematic. Although I can take more material off with that chisel. These curls are a little thicker to get that roughed in, but because of the length of the handles and such, I'm going to go to my finger plane, little teeny plane that I hold in my fingers. Actually, I have a little set there. There's 3 different sizes. And using the biggest one, they've got curved soles. This part here, the brass part. This smallest one has the most curve to that sole. And you can see that the curls that I'm taking up are a bit smaller. But I'm stopping here near the midpoint, which is going to be the lowest part of this scoop. And I will come back in the other direction and do the same thing over here. All right, I will continue on doing that till I get down to that lowest point there. And then the next thing that I would do, and I'll show you a little of this here, just as a little break, I'm going to draw a pencil line in the center of this point here, because the next thing that I do is to triangulate this brace. Take it from a rectangular down to a triangle, and the first part that I remove material from these sides here near the points of the suspension bridge. It's this part of the shaping that will allow me the most flexibility as far as how much material I take away. Once I get these basic shapes in here, I will get a feel for how flexible the top is and what kind of tap tone it has, and continue to remove material till I feel like it comes down to a point that is more flexible but still quite solid. And as I tap that and remove material, that tone will go lower and lower and lower. That's what I'm going to work on there. But in the meantime, let's actually take this off the mold there. Right. So there's the top. It is really firm, comparatively speaking. I can barely move it with my thumb at this point. And it doesn't have a whole lot of tap at this point because there's still a lot of material to remove. Another thing that might be interesting to point out, pick guard, where the pick guard was glued to the top. So when that pick guard shrinks, tends to cup the top and pull the wood on the edges possibly. And in this one, you can't really see it from the top there, but it did create what is called the standard Martin pickguard crack, where it cracks the wood right here. A little hard to see, but the interior, I don't know if we can see this, but right here is what appears to be a very dark grain line right at that spot there, usually coming off the B string. This one is a little closer, but there I can see that it did make that crack in the interior, so that's one of the other nice things. But having this total access to the inside of the top, rather than working through the sound hole to glue and cleat this crack, I can do it with the back off. I'm going to put a cleat right there to reinforce that crack at some point. But there's the pickguard crack on the interior. Another thing that I was trying to create here in the top is a slight dome in the lower bot that transitions to a flat edge. There's that dome created, but when we get up here where the X-brace meets, which is right here, it has still a bit of a dome, but it's flattened out. Up here at this point, very flat. You know, same sort of thing. Here's where the X-brace is, that length of that X-brace, and you can see there is a bit of a dome built into the top from that, but it's pretty slight. A 30-foot radius approximately, which means take a string, attach it firmly to a piece of wood or wherever, extend that string out 30 feet, tie a pencil to that string, and draw a line in that arch. I then take that line and use that to dish this workboard to create that radius here in this. So we should have the opposite radius here, that dish, and along those lines. There we go. Carving the braces on the rebrace. I will work my way through this to the point where I've got this. Like I said, the braces will be carved to my standard dimension, which is a little large. Give me some opportunity to lighten them at the very least by taking that in triangulation and making it more triangulated. And then, if necessary, I'll go next to the scoop in the scallop brace and take that down a little bit more. A small amount of material taken from the height of the brace will reduce its strength quite significantly compared to that same amount of material taken from the sides. So the triangulation of the brace allows me to maintain the strength and lighten it up and change that tap tune to get something that is nice and musical and will make the top as flexible and vibrate as much as I can while maintaining that strength. All right, that's what we got for you in the shop. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon. Any questions, thoughts, send them our way. Later.